the first thing you need to know is that these plants are native to the tropical rainforest.
Really?
So I went to the rainforest to learn more about them.
You went to a rainforest?
I did. I went to the tropical rainforest at Fairchild Tropical Botanical Gardens in Florida. They're the only rainforest in the continental United States.
All right, that's fair.
I met there with an orchid expert. In fact, she was called the Orchid Lady, and she answered a lot of our questions on how to care for orchids. Whoa, look at this orchid. That's absolutely spectacular.
That's one of the vandaceous plants. This is a vanda. It has a beautiful purple color, don't you think? So I have a house full of these. I have one orchid house just for vandas.
Do you really? I'd love to see that. But look, the roots are hanging out in the air. There's no soil at all.
No, orchids really don't need the soil to grow on at all. As you'll see over here, the orchids are growing in the moss and in the rocks.
Now that one over there looks just like an iris.
It's a Cattleya.
And it's just growing in the moss.
It's just growing there by itself.
Now this one I recognize. This is the moth orchid.
Correct,
Pretty.
That's the phalaenopsis. If there is one orchid that can be grown well indoors, it's the phalaenopsis.
Well, I'm glad to hear that because this is the one I see in all the garden centers and the one we get all the questions about.
Phalaenopsises are native of Asia, mostly the Philippines. They've become very popular here in the United States now.
I see them everywhere.
And they're very easy to grow indoors. They're very good house plants, but you need to give them 5 things.
Okay.
Water,
Yeah.
fertilizer, ventilation, light, and temperature.
Okay, let's start with watering.
Okay, watering is one of the most difficult things to master. Most people overwater their plants and they kill them with overwatering. When in doubt, wait a day.
Okay, that's great. Now I look around in the rainforest we're in here, and these don't get any water. They just get the natural water that falls in the humidity.
Right, but we don't have that humidity in our houses.
No, that's right.
Right, so we get a humidity tray.
Okay.
You fill the bottom of a tray with the pebbles, then put water in it up until you just see the water there, and you sit your plant on it.
Oh, I see. So then as the water evaporates, it's just picked up by the roots.
Exactly.
What a nice little trick.
And now I'm going to show you how to water the orchid.
You're just taking it out of the pot?
I'm going to take it out of that pot there now. And we're going to water thoroughly. We're going to keep that water in there for at least 10 seconds to make sure the roots are really soaking up that water.
Okay. You just let it drain out?
Let it all drain out.
Now this is something you could do at the kitchen sink or if you had a garden bench.
That's right. And usually you can check it again in a few days. If not, usually once a week, a thorough watering like this ought to do it.
Now let's talk about fertilizing. Lisa wants to know when to fertilize and what kind of fertilizer to use.
Okay, that's a very good question. It's better to fertilize the day after you water.
You don't want to fertilize on dry roots. You could burn them.
Exactly.
Okay.
A rule of thumb is weekly.
Weekly?
That's right.
Right.
A week solution of balanced fertilizer once a week.
Okay, let's talk about ventilation.
Ventilation is very important for the orchids. They always, in the forest, they always have the wind blowing or breezes. So the best thing is to have sometimes fans going all the time. Here in Florida we do that. And put them not on solid tables, but on tables that have some sort of opening so that the air circulates that way.
All the way from the
all
bottom
the way,
of the plant.
right. And don't bunch the pots together. A rule of thumb is to have them far enough apart for the cat to weave in between them.
Now, Kathy from Kelso, Washington wants to know, she has great green foliage, but she's not getting any more blooms.
She's probably not giving them enough light. She has to move them to a brighter spot, but gradually.
Okay.
However, not direct sunlight. They do not like direct sunlight.
Okay.
Bright sunlight, yes. Another reason her orchid might not be blooming is temperature. Phalaenopsis in particular need a 10-degree difference between day and night temperature.
She's going to have to turn down her thermostat.
Yes, she will. Another way to encourage a new bloom on the Phalaenopsis is, after all the blooms have gone here, you start counting from these little things here. These are called nodes?
Nodes, yeah.
Okay, and you count 1, 2, 3, 4, and right above the 4th one, you can go ahead and cut it.
Okay.
And that will encourage a lateral growth from there.
Great tip. I didn't know that. Now, Kelly from Cincinnati wants to know, when do you repot an orchid? And how do you know?
Okay, in the case of phalaenopsis, at the most wait 2 years. Sometimes they like to be repotted every year. But if the media it starts decomposing, you can see it by the orchid starts failing you, then you can repot.
Okay, now I notice you have a bunch of different pots here.
Yes, there are.
Any favorites? Or?
For phalaenopsis, the plastic pot is the best because it keeps the moist in. And since they need to keep the moist longer in there, it's better to have it. The clay pots are excellent. These are for most all the other orchids. And you can see that these holes here are for not only drainage, but ventilation.
Right, most of them don't have holes on the side of it like that.
Right, right. Like this one here, for example. This one is not an orchid pot.
Okay.
That's a regular flower pot.
So that makes it an orchid pot.
Exactly. Orchids don't grow in soil. They grow in media.
Okay.
And here we have a few of a lot of media that is out there in the market. This is sphagnum moss. This is fir bark, and this is bark with a mixture of charcoal and perlite. I like to put my phalaenopsis in sphagnum moss, and you have to soak it in water before you actually use it and put it in your orchids. They like it that way.
Boy, I like to think I know a lot about plants, but I sure learned about orchids today. Thank you so much.